All right, so the Emperor came to me and he said, I checked around and you hadn't checked this out. Why are you ignoring what I did on Eleanor? And I am apologizing to the Emperor for that. I am going to rectify that mistake now. This is PancreasNoWork's video on the do or don't Orks. Now, normally his do or don't revolves around the tabletop, and it revolves around why a faction is awesome or it sucks. And typically, he's right about them. He has changed with his method of argument and the way he presents source of information. He's actually changed my cold dead heart on a number of subjects. And, you know, I really, really dig into the lore for some things. But we're going to check out the do or don't on Orks. And we're going to see if, he changed my mind on anything in here. I don't think so because of the Orks. And if there's one thing that is true about the Orks, is that they're insane. And that's the best part about them. Here we go.
Oh boy, I sure do love playing factions like the Eldar, Tau, or the Imperium. There's nothing quite like sacrificing yourself for a cause greater than yourself in the name of a pointless war that will never truly end. But hang on a minute. There's something missing from this war game of mine. Something crucial to any game. But what is it? Alright. Fun. I like just about every faction in Warhammer to some extent, but you know what almost all of them are missing? A sense of fun. None of them know how to enjoy themselves.
This is true. This is very true.
You'd think someone would figure out that they may as well live a little, but no. You'll get one or two people who might have heard of a smile, and that's about it. With one exception.
Yes.
One faction knows what fun means. One glorious faction who are fully aware of the world they live in and wouldn't ask for it any differently.
Yes.
So when you roll up to your friendly local game store, do you want to imagine your little plastic...
Hold on a second. I already know. I apologize for not doing it right the first time, guys. Hold on. Because we are talking about the Orks. Let's go.
dudes having the time of their lives as they live through the heavy metal album cover that is 40k. And you, my friend, you want the Orks.
Yes.
The Orks are a group of mushrooms that are so goddamn stupid they warp reality around them. Created millions of years ago by the older ones to fight the Necrons, these creatures known as the Krorks at the time were fucking monsters.
Yeah.
Their smallest warriors were the size of dreadnoughts, but over time they degraded because they had no worthy enemies to keep them at their A-game. The Necrons had a case of the Mondays and decided to sleep it off for 65 million years, and the Eldar toggled God mode every time the Krorks tried to fight them. No worthy and proper fights equals less and less Krorks until you get the lovably stupid football hooligans we have now. But
yes.
Even in the 41st millennia, these green giants are still made for fighting and winning, while the other armies fight for pansy reasons like the glory of the God Emperor, galactic peace, and not being raped for all eternity. The Orks fight just because it's so fucking fun. So with all the background you need to know out of the way, why don't we explore some lore reasons you want to play Orks? We'll buckle up, because there's plenty.
There's only one reason that you need to play Orks. Because you can act as ridiculous as possible and you never have to have any reason to do what you're doing. Just Orks. I've said it before, I say it again. No matter how ridiculous an Ork acts, if it gives you, like, a mental breakdown, the only thing that you need to do is go in the bathroom, look in the mirror, and say Orks until you get it.
Plenty of reasons. You know what the Orks will never run out of? Orks. Aside from the Tyranids, there's more Orks than any other race. The trillion-strong Imperial Guard might seem mighty until they look at the horizon and notice that all that green they're seeing isn't grass.
Yeah.
It's angry mushroom people. So if you lose a game as the Orks, it doesn't matter. There's always more. And they're mushrooms. Do you know what happens when an Ork army gets killed by melee weapons or anything that isn't flamethrowers? They all grow back in a few months from spores. I mean, yeah, technically if the enemy uses flamer weapons, then there won't be anything left to grow into more Orks, but this is 40k. There's like 1,000 people in the galaxy that are smart enough to know that, and all of them are the salamanders. So when the Orks lose a fight, not only will more be around to get revenge, the ones you just killed are going to grow into more Orks. That's right.
True.
By fighting Orks, you're technically having sex with them. God, what the fuck did I write?
Oh, God. Oh. Oh, there's too many fan fictions that have been spawned already for that.
That now I'm gonna have nightmares about giant green cock. And speaking of Orks losing, they have the absolute best attitudes towards warfare. If they win, then they won. Congrats, boys, we did it. But if you lose, well, if you died, you still had fun, so it doesn't count.
True.
And if you run away, you can still come back to have a proper fight another day, so it's like you still won. That's right. You can never be defeated, because you're not fighting for some grand cause. You're just fighting to fight. And while some people may say the Orks are dumb, this manifests in an entirely different way to other dumb armies. See, corn armies, for example, are dumb in a pathetic way. Their sugar daddy on his shitty skull throne said magic is for cringe idiots and so they can't shoot lightning. But he also knows that if he doesn't help his brain damaged followers by cheating, they won't win any battles, so him and GW give Cornate's bullshit strength and toughness to counteract their pathetic brains.
Yes.
But the Orks, they take their stupidity and weaponize it. They're so goddamn dumb that their racial stupidity combines into a field of deadly idiocy. They believe red goes faster, and they're so stupid that they wrap around to being smart and altering reality to make red things indeed go faster.
Yep.
Not only do they use magic, it's stupid people magic. The average Cornate fan cries when he gets blasted by lightning and his god calls him a pussy for getting electrocuted. The average Gork and Mork appreciator simply thinks it would be cool if his gods could step on the enemy, and so it becomes reality and a great green foot smashes a titan flat. Speaking of gods, do you think that the monotheism many other factions have to some extent is stupid and dumb? There's only one god emperor. Chaos followers usually revere one of the gods. Well, the Orks have that covered too. You have two gods named Gork and Mork. One is brutal yet cunning, while the other is cunning yet brutal. You may wonder why that requires two gods. If so, you clearly don't get Orks. You see, if you only have one god, who is it supposed to fight? Also,
Right.
and while this isn't...
And, okay, here's the thing. One is supposed to be cunningly brutal, the other one's supposed to be brutally cunning. And they can't decide which one is which, and they fight because they're trying to decide which one is which. That's not a joke. Wars have been spawned between the Orks because which one is Gork and which one is Mork.
Quite a low reason. Orks are one of the factions that have gotten a lot of attention from Games Workshop lately. New units have been released and the standard box of boys has been redone. It makes me cry as an Eldar player seeing other Xenos get the attention, but it's still awesome nonetheless, I can't admit. Lastly, their names and equipment for everything are just so fun. The standard Orc soldiers are the boys. They call their melee weapons choppas and ranged weapons shooters or sluggas. Their jump pack infantry have Looney Tunes rockets strapped to their backs. They're just fun. Nothing more to it. How about some rule reasons? Well, that numbers advantage they have in lore translates to rules too. The average orc boy is pretty goddamn cheap, to the point that multiple units over 20 is entirely possible, with plenty left over for bigger toys and larger point value games. Want to draw on your enemy in a green tide? You can. Easily. Their models are also pretty tough. The average orc boy is reasonably resistant to bolter fire or other faction equivalents. Not totally resistant, but resistant enough to the point that you're going to have your entire army shredded in 2 turns as long as you don't make some really stupid mistakes.
Right.
While some models like Wretched are pathetic, the point of those models is to die so the other ones don't, so it's kind of a moot point. Do you like shooting? Do you like filling the air until there's more bullet than oxygen? Well, then you're gonna love the Orks. The green bastards love shooting volley after volley of fire. This means it doesn't matter if you roll a 1 on half of the dice rolls you make. When you average 100 shots per turn, you're gonna hit something eventually. And because these are orc weapons, not some shitty lasgun, whatever you hit is gonna feel it. Finally, the main orky character, Gazgul Mag Uruk Thrak, Margaret Thatcher, the one true prophet and leader of the Orks, is the only Xeno character to truly resemble a Primarch in both lore and stats. The Phoenix Lords are equivalent in lore, but in rules, the Primarch is going to be winning, as hard as it is for me to admit that. The Silent King is on a vehicle, so that doesn't count for rules because he's cheating, and in lore, he's like if the Emperor was ignored by 80% of the Imperium, so he's not even on Primarch level. But when Gazgul is around, every boy in the secta is gonna listen to him, and you better hope Gilliman is around to help stop Gazi when he shows up, because otherwise no one is stopping this rape train on the battlefield. But let's say you hate fun because you have the Imperial Aquila jammed so far up your ass you could be the world's holiest scarecrow.
Yes.
Why wouldn't you pick the Orks?
Why not?
For lore, the fact that the Orks are so goddamn numerous means they are one of the prime candidates to get mowed down like it's fucking D-Day to show how strong a faction is. If not that, then they're usually the foes who are revealed to be only a pale shadow compared to the true threat, which is usually Chaos or Necrons or something like that. So while their lore is kick-ass, they have a lot more defeats than most other people because killing orcs doesn't really change the setting, so Games Workshop defaults to orc genocide whenever they need an enemy to look threatening. The orcs look threatening, stomp some side characters flat, and then the latest main character they're shilling effortlessly defeats them. Not quite on the same level of the Avatar of Cain, but it's close. Second, you may not like the whole fighting just to fight thing they've got going on. There's no grand purpose to the orcs. Even Gaskel's big crusade isn't to achieve some grand purpose. No. It's just a lot more fun when you have every orc screaming wah at the top of their lungs instead of only a few. So again, if the concept of fun in a game is anathema to you, then don't go with the greenskins.
Like, seriously, the Greenskins' entire reason for being is justified. That is the reason they wake up in the morning. That is the reason they go to sleep at night. They dream of fighting. their entire social strata is involved in fighting. That is the way they were designed by the old ones. That is everything that they are.
Lastly, they're part of Squad Broken. If you know what that is, then I'm sorry and I hope you can recover from what you suffered through. If you don't know, then I encourage you to read this wonderful story about the hardiness and brutality of the Orks. Now for rules downsides, those are a lot more understandable reasons to avoid the boys than the lower ones. A few paragraphs ago I said that with dozens if not over 100...
Oh, I feel it. I feel it. I feel his pain here.
shots a turn, you'll hit something eventually. The Orks don't get all those shots because they're overpowered though. They get them because they need them.
Yes.
While a few of your units have accuracy resembling that of a sniper, for the most part the Orks are just happy to be shooting and don't really care if they hit anything.
Right.
Theoretically they'll hit on a 5 or a 6, but between potential psyker buffs and debuffs or any unit auras on your target, just assume you don't roll a 6, you're probably not going to hit it.
Right.
Also, where your Orks are tough, they aren't that tough.
No.
You can take some punishment, and if you know what you're doing you can offset it, but if you just blindly charge in machine gun fire, you're going to be taking heavy casualties.
Yes.
And while they aren't that cowardly either, if you start taking heavy losses, you might have some morale issues on your hands. Neither of these are extreme, like your Orks are to toughness what a Tau is to melee, but you'll need to keep them in mind. Artillery will also be the bane of your existence if you really double down on the greed-tied aspect of the Orks. 30 boys will crush anything directly in their path, but if your enemy has some halfway decent guns in his backline, just assume you lose half those models the moment he fires. Lastly, because Orks are a horde army, they require a lot of models, which translates to a major investment in both time and money. You can play Orks with smaller armies of bigger war machines, which is fairly effective, but that being said, for the right and proper Ork experience, you'll be shelling out some dosh, to say the least. So for the love of God, use eBay or something if you don't plan on missing a mortgage payment or 6 if you're going to play the Orks. It's even worse because unlike other horde armies, the standard infantry box of boys doesn't come with 20 units like the Skaven or Gloomspite gets, or even just the 12 of the Tyranids. It has 10. You'd best be prepared because Gork and Mark require your wallet. So there's the Orks for you. Some right proper gits who can fill the atmosphere with lead in the name of the great green gods, but require some investment and skill to properly use. Or not, because in the spirit of Orkiness, it's not about who wins, it's about having fun with the fight. I hope I've once again helped you along on your path in deciding which Warhammer army to throw money and paint at. Thanks for watching and take care.
And we're gonna wait.
The boys always ask when the boss is fighting, but never how's the boss is doing. Oh boy.
Guys, Orks are one of my favorite players that I've ever played alongside of. He had an Ork army, and he worked out a lot. He was like really buff, and what he would do is when he would come to play a game at the local shop, he would literally show up with green body paint on. And he would show up yelling. And some people didn't like it, but it was so absolutely ridiculous. And he never played, like, there was no such thing as strategy. He would talk like an Ork. He would walk like an Ork. He would do all this other kind of stuff. And the thing about it was, if you met him outside of playing the Orks, when he was playing the Orks, he was just so straightforward, stoic, calm, all this other kind of stuff. But when he came to play, oh man, that man came to play, okay? He came to play the game, and he didn't care. And I wish more people would do that. Just enjoy the game like that. He was all about enjoying the game. He was a hell of a painter, too. My own Sisters of Battle army played him, I think, once, and it was so absolutely comical. Like, oh god, it was the funniest hour and a half that I've ever spent playing the game, because he would just do things for no reason, but it would work. I won that game, by the way, and he didn't care that he lost. He never cared to win or lose. He was the funnest player I've ever seen play the game. And just because if you met him outside, if you met him, like, because he played D&D every once in a while, he'd show up and he'd be like completely, he was completely calm and collected until he played the Orks, and then he'd act like an absolute madman. And I can't even begin to imagine what people driving alongside of him must have thought when they looked over and saw this guy in green body paint, because he would come in. It was the stupidest thing ever. He drove a Jeep Wrangler, and he'd come in wearing cut off jeans and like sandals and stuff like that with no shirt on. And when he'd pull into the game shop, if he saw any of us outside, we already knew what he was there to do, because he'd be screaming "wah" out the side of the thing. And it was right next to a train station. Well, not a train, a trolley station. So you'd have kids getting on the trolley with their mother, and this crazy man painted in green would be screaming his lungs out. A typical day in San Diego. Anyhow, guys, all of PancreasNoWork's links are going to be in the description below. Go check him out. You owe it to yourself. And as far as mine go, mine are going to be in the description below. If you'd like to help out the channel, a like and a comment is the best way to do it. If you haven't subscribed already, because I check out stuff like this all the time. Pop in the Discord to request things. Right now, a couple of channels will shut down because you heathens keep on throwing 90 requests at me. Anyhow, I'll catch you guys next time. Oh my God. I miss playing. I miss just watching this guy play. I would love to see somebody play like him again, because it was brilliant.